Okay, so it's the Booktube Prize wrap-up. I've already talked about in previous videos how absolutely extra I was about the entire process, to the point where Robert had to call the Wambulance in to calm me down. But the embargo is finally lifted, and I can talk about the 6 books that I was asked to rate for the Booktube Prize. Now, here they are in order from least favorite to most favorite. And we start off with Lenny Zumas's Red Clocks, which shows you the strength of the particular cohort that I was asked to read, that this is what I considered the worst book. Now, this is a dystopian near future, and when I say near future, I mean really near future, where abortion is illegal. Considering that we are having some heartbeat rulings being passed in the States, this doesn't seem too far-fetched. At 6 weeks, most women don't even know that they're pregnant. So essentially what's happening is abortion is being made illegal, but it's got a bit better branding around it. I mean, frankly, if men got pregnant, you would be able to get an abortion at the Jiffy Lube and get a free set of wipers for your troubles. And anyway, this, the darkest of timelines that makes up Red Clocks, abortion is illegal. Those people who provide abortions can be charged with second-degree murder. People seeking abortion can face significant jail time. As well, there is laws being put into place to make in vitro fertilization illegal and seek to have 2 parents for every child. Honestly, dystopian, but who here would be surprised if this inexplicably became a 2020 Trump platform? Anyway, those are the ground rules, and in this environment, you have Roe, the biographer, single woman, desperately trying to get pregnant before in vitro fertilization is banned. You have Susan, the unhappy housewife that resents her child and really is married to an oblivious jerk of a husband, and Maddie, the high school girl that finds herself pregnant. Where these women interact is where the book really shines. I really liked Roe and the sort of seething jealousy she feels towards Susan, and sort of the greed in which she looks on at Maddie and the potential that she has within her. And she wrestles with whether she should do what's right for her for Maddie, and then how the women in the community perceive Jin, the healer off in the woods. But I think where it falls a little bit is I didn't need the 19th century polar explorer in my feminist dystopia. And frankly, I wanted the stakes to be a little higher. Maybe I am an oblivious jerk of a dude, but you're preaching to the converted here. I get that. I wanted higher table stakes instead of the hand-wringing of a bunch of affluent white suburban women. Even Maddie, when she tries to cross the pink wall, as it's called, into Canada where abortion is legal, she's lightly patted on the head and sent back home, as opposed to incarcerated like the POC acquaintance in her high school. And even the abortion clinic seems illegal in name only. It actually seems pretty professional and proficient. What do those look like in poor neighborhoods? What are the incarceration rates in those neighborhoods? What happens to those victims of rape and incest? And maybe it's just simply the difference a year can make. This book was released in January of 2018, and here we are in 2019. And it feels like the stakes in the story aren't quite as high as they are now. And so it just didn't land quite as well as I thought it might have. Next up is The Great Believers by Rebecca Makkai. Basically, it is focusing on the AIDS epidemic as it ravages Boys Town in Chicago during the 80s. And it manages to do this without devolving into misery porn. It has a very large cast of characters that are rendered sympathetically and beautifully done. And I really like that section of the story. We also move forward to 2015, where one of the characters, Fiona, is looking for her daughter. This seemed a little weaker to me as far as the story goes, but I get why it needs to be there. And it seems almost a tragedy that this woman who spent all this time taking care of all these people dying of AIDS would end up alienating her own daughter as a result. And this is echoed by another character, Nora, who was alive during the 1920s in Paris, hanging around with the artists in that community. And she wants to donate some of those paintings from artists like Modigliani to the gallery. Now, this becomes a gallery acquisition thriller also in the middle of this book, but it also seems a shame in that she wants to preserve her memories at the expense of her children and aggravating and alienating them as a result. Anyway, it's a lot of balls that she's got in the air, and for the most part, she managed to keep them going, but certain things just didn't work as well for me as the other elements. Next up is Silence of the Girls by Pat Barker. Honestly, this is a coin toss between this and Rebecca Mackay's The Great Believers. It's just that the female retelling of the classics are so hot right now, with Madeline Miller's Circe and Emily Watson's translation of the Odyssey. This is a retelling of Homer's The Iliad. And it's told from the perspective of 19-year-old Briseis, and how she sparked a fight between the mighty Achilles and Agamemnon, the king of men. Now, Briseis is offered as a war prize to Achilles after the sacking of Lyrnessus. Anyway, this seems to be an answer to an episode that happens in the Iliad, where Priam falls to his knees in front of Achilles, asking for the body of his dead son Hector, and wherein he says, "I do what no man before me has ever done before. I kiss the hands of the man who killed my son." Later on, Briseis will echo that sentiment and say, "I do what countless women before me have been forced to do. I spread my legs for the man who killed my husband and my brothers." Wow. A story like this only works at an arm's length remove, and I am grateful for that. It is a hard line to tack, but at the same time, there doesn't feel to be any real stakes here when it feels more like a fantasy mythological story as opposed to a harrowing recounting of Briseis and the other war brides. And again, like I said, I'm grateful for that arm's length remove, but it sort of washes over you a little too easily. Anyway, that was that. Next up was There by Tommy Orange. Now, I've done a video review of this book and how much I enjoyed it, so I'll point you to an earlier review of that instead. And we're down to the top two here, both clear winners in my eyes, but the first runner-up is Happiness by Animata Forna. And we're introduced to Attila Asare. He's a Ghanaian psychiatrist in London to deliver a keynote on post-traumatic recovery. He's drawing on his extensive experience traveling the world, visiting war zones and battlefields. He's a recent widower, but he's also taking care of his ex-lover, who is slowly tumbling into early onset dementia. He's also helping his niece navigate immigration processes and trying to find her son Tano, who's disappeared into the city. And frankly, it's a lot, but Attila is all elegant composure. He still gets dressed up to eat out on his own, visit the theater, or dance in his hotel room. We're also introduced to Jean Terrain, who is in London studying foxes. Recently divorced, missing her son who's back in the United States terribly. She's also designing small space gardens and examining foxes in the city. So the two have a meet cute on Waterloo Bridge, and Jean is quickly enlisted to help find Tano in the city. And she actually enlists the cadre of fox washers that she has. It consists of street performers, traffic wardens, hotel doormen, street sweepers, and the like. Anyway, it's all about assimilation and immigration, trauma, and the hope for resilience, happiness, or even joy in the face of all the things that can go wrong or terribly wrong in the world. And it's just really warm-hearted at its core, and frankly, I like that. I could use a little bit more of these warm-hearted stories in my life right now. And that leaves my unlikely favorite of the entire cohort, which was Bitter Orange by Claire Fuller. I really enjoyed this story. We were introduced from the very beginning to the unlikely named Frangelico, who's recalling the events of the summer of '69. She is then a plump, awkward 39-year-old graying virgin who has recently lost her mother and finds herself in an abandoned country estate to assess it. And there she meets the charismatic Peter and his wife, Kara. And from the very beginning, we also see Fran staring through the peephole down to the bathroom down below to a body lying in the slowly pinking water of a bathtub with eyes open, staring for a little too long. And I love that gothic element right from the very beginning. We've got mysterious figures in the windows and mysterious creaking noises, secret rooms. Kara is clearly troubled, and their relationship isn't exactly what it seems on the surface. This is Kazuo Ishiguro meets Charlotte Bronte channeling Gillian Flynn. And I really, really did enjoy it. This is the perfect summer literary thriller. So those were my picks in order from least to most favorite. But of course, in this particular round, only 3 can go on to the semifinal round. Now, for this particular prize, there were 7 judges reading these same 6 books, and we were having to place them in order from 1 to 6 as far as our least to most favorite, and the top scores move on. Those were Silence of the Girls, There, and Happiness. And so, a great looking cohort for the semifinals. I mean, gosh, I can't believe how much work Robert is putting into this. It makes me feel bad for how much of a diva I was about the whole process and whining about my TBR list. Anyway, it was really, really fun, and I appreciate being included. So despite all my initial worries, this was really, really great. So that's it for this week. I don't know when I'm going to be shooting next. By the time this gets released, my daughter will be out traveling in Portugal with the camera. So maybe I'll try it on the iPhone or something. I'm not quite sure, but hopefully she has a great time traipsing around Europe while I'm stuck here at home working. And before I go, public service announcement, go check out Always Be My Maybe on Netflix with Ali Wong and Randall Park. It's another great rom-com, but it's just so warm, funny, and smart. And anything that's anchored by kimchi jjigae is a win in my books. And Keanu Reeves is absolutely the most Keanu-est in this movie. So it's well worth checking out. And that's it for me this week. I hope you all have a great week of reading this week. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye.